idea that there is absolutely no alternative for progression in the world for you. They live in an area that is incredibly misogynistic. But as much as they want to claim that the motion says that a party has given you an offer, the debate is clearly about probabilities of characterization, which is to say that you're in a situation where these individuals are definitely going to lose out on votes or align themselves with the feminist party. Then you have to accept that it's unlikely to be the kind of characterization the motion is talking about in the first place, which means that the context they set up is incredibly unfair. But secondly, I would argue, so it's not as misogynistic as they say, but secondly, I would argue that in situations that they talk about, I think even if it was true that these offers were made to the feminist party, the kind of benefits they're talking about are never going to materialize. Because they say, now you can block legislation and now you are able to fight for women's rights. But in a world in which you yourself accept that a vast majority of individuals are misogynistic, all parties are misogynistic, even if it is true that your party may not have your own particular vote, the other parties will similarly vote for the same misogynistic policies as well. Your voting ability is incredibly diluted in the same kind of context that you are talking about. The comparative is that outside, at least we continue to have a strong liberal voice of a feminist movement. They seem to be backing women no matter what, and who are unwilling to make compromises about what women deserve to have. But also, I would like to note that oftentimes the kind of policy that women really require doesn't just stop at legislation. It's oftentimes a problem of active enforcement. So, even if through some miracle you are able to pass policy like, for example, allowing for abortion in your country, look at the way the United States, for example, systematically closed like hundreds of abortion clinics and made access to abortion almost impossible, even though there was a legislation that was passed. In the context that you are talking about, the kind of progressions that you can make are not the kind of progressions that actually substantially benefit women, other than giving them the appearance that something has been done and expending political capital in that way. I'm going to talk about three things. One, I'm going to talk about whether or not you're actually able to negotiate and why this is bad for the party as a whole. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the perception of these women and whether or not you really make them role models, actually just these two things. First thing we need to know is that the big movement in this debate is not the specific party that is anti-women, that they speak of. We think that in the context of talking about there is some possibility of change, and we think we should exploit that possibility of change to the extent to which there is one coalition party that might have a poor record of women's rights. That does not mean that our only primary goal as a party is to remove that particular coalition from power. But we need to note that oftentimes for women's rights, especially the societies we are talking about, it's about having a continued and sustained presence to be able to promote a general sensitivity and progression for the way that people look at women as a whole. In their world, this does not happen because the one party that is able to propagate these kinds of views is now severely weakened. In the comparative on outside, what we say we are able to have is because we have a reasonable amount of support, and because the context in which there's a coalition government being formed, that means that there are no other parties in the nation that have a clear majority. This is important because it means that as a party that supports feminism, you are going to be a very powerful ally for parties in the future, which means that it makes more political sense for parties to begin to pander towards you, especially parties that are in opposition to the party you're talking about, to start pandering towards becoming slightly more feminist, so that you're more likely to negotiate with them and more likely to become a coalition party with those people. To the extent to which you are saying that this feminist movement does not seem to stand for anything, why would any party care about the policies that you are propagating if you are seeing it's so easy on compromising your principles? But we also told you that this means that you're severely weakened in your ability to do that, because now women just simply see you as not being a proper representative of that. They told us, well, they have no other alternative. They do. They have the alternative to stay at home and not vote. And oftentimes it's not even just a result of laziness, but just a complete protest and the lack of female representation in your country. To the extent to which you can be that female representation, you ought not be compromising on those principles in order to do it. Second thing, are you actually able, the thing about whether or not you're actually able to negotiate. They said that now that you're joining the coalition, they are going to lose votes. Okay, even if I accept this to be true, I don't understand what incentive a party has to join a coalition that is failing, that is definitely going to lose support and end up dying out, especially if you are going to be the cause of it. The extent to which you are a party and you join a party and then like, yeah, now they're going to lose votes. One, that's not a primary objective, but secondly, it just means that you're less able to pass policy because there's less political legitimacy according to the coalition that you're joining. So that is literally a contradictory goal. I don't understand why that's a good thing. You're just going to be part of a coalition with higher chances of actually failing, which means you're going to look even worse. Second thing they say is that if they're afraid of you, you're going to be able to negotiate because it's quite an important vote share. But note that oftentimes issues are a question of prioritization, which is to say that if the party primarily ran on a certain platform that say, for example, they wanted to prioritize economic issues and the like, then I think it's more likely that your voice is going to be dropped down because they are more likely to be keen to pander to their own voter base and what their voter base wanted, rather than put your family issues up at the forefront. The reason why this is problematic is because even if you wanted to negotiate with them, now that you are part of the coalition, you are going to be seen as actively blocking and stemming any sort of actual legislative change that government wants to do. Which is to say that the government feels it is your fault. However, they say this is also true because if you don't join them, you're saying not allowing government to function. If you're a feminist party and this party is an anti-woman party, it seems to be critically consistent and the most third thing in the world for you to not join them. One of the reasons you're blocking government because it makes no sense why you wanted to join them in the first place. The last thing that I want to talk about is that it's about negotiation. And so at the end of the day, I think that you're not able to negotiate. The negotiations you're able to make are also not going to be the kind that will be enforced. Next, what exactly do we create when it comes to perceptions and role models? We think that our guideline to victory was pretty clear. We wanted to be seen as an important, if not determinative, or determinative if not like the only political presence we try to make more people care about. We also told you that we wanted to continue to remain to be the source of solace and some sort of inspiration for people. They told us about role models and seeing women being able to be in power. But I think that the perception is worse in a world in which you are seen to be like a party that literally only cares about female issues and does not seem to like want to care about any other thing. So like the same perception problems you're talking about also fails. But also, you're not going to be seen as a great role model. You're nothing but a coalition partner that's there for a totalistic like view of only fighting for feminist issues. And also, I think it's just ridiculous to assume that there's just absolutely no other woman left in the entire parliament. Women who are able to show that they stand for multiple things are also good role models that we have on the outside of the house. But secondly, we think that when they're talking about this idea of like perception of individuals as seeing like women are now able to rule, I think that in a world in which these women are consistently blocking certain kinds of legislation, they are near and dear to the heart of the voting electorate, and not compromising on these issues. That's when you can see like a much worse like political party as a whole. That's when you delegitimize the